I'm Polly Watt. Basically, a chief learning officer is sort of the head of as high up as you can get in the instructional design kind of pathway, career pathway. So chief learning officer would be the person in a company that deals with the whole learning outline of a company. So from pre-onboarding, onboarding, learning paths, career paths within an organization. It's not HR, but it would be something that works in parallel with HR a lot of the way through the company. So that's just a quick outline of roughly what I do. And I'm looking, it's a company and very much in creation. I'm looking to work with scale up companies who are needing to put in some kind of structure as they expand the people in the company. So to continue, if all goes well, let's see. So I'm going to start with a question for everybody. Have you done any learning recently, and have you done a quiz during that learning? So almost all learning has quizzes sort of throughout either end of a module or a chapter or at the very end of the learning. And my question, please put something in the chat, would be, what do you think the purpose of the quiz was? And what did you think of the quiz? Was it a good quiz? Was it a bad quiz? You know, was it any use to you, or was it a complete waste of time, in your opinion? No. Learning to sit with silence. Okay, so maybe no one's done any learning recently, but generally speaking, the way stakeholders want to see learning is they want to see that people have done it, and they want to see that there have been participants in their learning. So they tend to have quizzes, thank you, so that they can show that people have done the learning, right? It's their tick box activity for a stakeholder's point of view. And how, so Carly, what was it useful? Were the quizzes useful to you? Did they make you feel like you were imprinting the knowledge that you had read, or did they just feel like a waste of space? Yeah, these are very yeah. So Carolyn, it helped you remember, I think, but not for sure for how long. Probably not long. Boring trivia, no applicant relevance. Okay, so that is really where I think quizzes are a lot of the time, is there's very little relevance, and they are, and I don't know how many of you are using AI to answer the quizzes for you. Personally, yes, I do use quizzes quite often, AI to answer quizzes quite often. And quite often, what I will do is I will answer the questions, but before I press submit, I will get AI's opinion on the questions and what it thinks the answers are. Because you've got to get 8 out of 10 to pass, random 8 out of 10 to pass. And if you don't know, if you're not sure, because you've been doing something else while the videos have been playing, then AI is very useful to help you get the 8 out of 10. Let's have a look at the other messages. That's very cautious. Right, okay, so to continue, so what are we assessing? Why are we assessing it? And how are we assessing it? So these are kind of the 3 questions that people should be asking when they're creating assessments. And there is a link, hopefully, to the mirror board, which
I just dropped it in the chat, Polly. So
I've put it in the chat. So if you click on that, you'll see my not very beautiful Miro board. I'm very much not skilled at Miro, to be fair. And hopefully everyone can still see my screen. So if you want to put in the post-it notes what you think we are assessing, why are we doing assessments, that would be useful. So for example, are we measuring the learning? Are we measuring knowledge? Are we measuring bums on seats? Are we measuring completion? So what is it you think really is the point of assessments? you just drag them and move them around as works for you. There are lots of post-its. And there are post-its under the post-its, so you can, anyone can put anything they want in. So reinforcing knowledge, you would think it was for that, wouldn't you? But I wonder how rare it is that it actually works to depending on the type of assessment, whether it really does that. Yeah, real world situations. So if you have really good assessments, and obviously from my point of view, I would say as an instructional designer and as a learner, the really good assessments are around projects. And the best assessments are ones that require individual input from someone, that you build over weeks of the course, and that you can apply. You can take a company and use it as your example. You can apply everything. Carolyn, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, Polly. It's so small, I can't actually see the board. I don't know if others are having the same issue, but I've just put an answer into the chat because, oh, that's better. I can see it more, but
you should be able to, if you open the link, you should be able to spread it out, if that makes sense.
yeah, I was kind of doing that, but then I lost the. I don't think my broadband connection is very good. That's my problem. So, but thank you.
And I'm.
Oh, I can see it now. That's perfect.
I'm quite nervous about Miro anyway. It's a whole learning curve, but lots of amazing people use it and use it really brilliantly. I will just line these up beautifully. So have they learned what we wanted them to learn? Maybe. Check the learner has to make real decisions in the real world. Present common mistake or misconceptions as wrong answers. Okay, so yeah, those are the kind of, so when you do a multiple choice question and you put in a few almost right or misconceptions, and then you can see if they've seen those, they've spotted those. So those are good questions, I would describe them as. Learning by doing is marvelous when it happens, doesn't happen very often. Application of knowledge to new contexts, good. Oh, something just disappeared. Make sure people, oh, picked up the wrong one. Can't move that. Do they understand it? Oh, look, lots of things coming up. Realistically, we test so that we can say that we did it. Yes. Whoever wrote that, that's absolutely 100% it. So having written quite a lot of assessments myself and the work from some really big stakeholders, they want to know finish rates, bums on seats, that kind of thing. Right, I'm going to move on now because we have quite a lot to get through. So all we're going to do is really move on to the next thing. So I'm going to do my little reveal. So these are the real reasons we do assessments, okay? So what are we assessing? We're assessing knowledge, comprehension, application, decision-making, task performance. So are they capable of performing the task? Learning transfer. So learning transfer is something we're going to talk about a lot. Learning transfer is taking the learning to the real world. Critical thinking. Don't know what this is all involved. Attitudes and motivation and impact on business goals. So these impact on business goals is kind of a higher level and it's harder to show, but it's really what companies want to know. So when you talk about learning and to the stakeholders inside the company or outside the company, what they want to know is the return on investment. What are they getting for their money? Why should they be doing training? And what does that bring them to? Okay, Chloe, I think you have clicked on that. Okay, so I'm going to go on. Oh, I didn't want to get rid of that. That should be hidden.
Polly, sorry, Caroline had raised a hand. Caroline, did you have a question?
No, that was left over. I'm so sorry.
Okay, sorry. No problem, no problem.
Well, let me move that up here and hide the answers. So here, why are we assessing it? So these are the reasons if anyone has any whys for why, so, and then we have how are we assessing it. So these are, everyone go ahead and fill these in for your life. Yes, yes, love this. Very good. To communicate a change in behavior. No, yes, very good. Do we need to amend the learning? So when you, depends on the kind of the questions you're asking about the learning, but do we, is the learning working? So normally, if you're using something like an LMS, you will be able to see where people are getting everything wrong in your assessments. And most LMSs, they give you feedback on the questions, and they give you a kind of, you need to look at this question because everyone's got it wrong kind of feedback. So for example, that is a very useful element to the whys of this. Prove that people are a certain level. But does it? I mean, does it prove people are at a certain level, particularly if they're using AI to answer the questions? It might prove that AI is at a certain level, but not necessarily the person behind it. To ensure learning happening as per plan, yes. Sort of. To ensure alignment between instruction and assessment. Good. For learner skill acquisition. So XYZ role can do better, can do XYZ better. Yes. But then that you need the learning transfer for that to be true. So if they're just answering the questions, but they've got no real idea of how they're doing it, you know, how that works in the real role. And often we do training and then we get no chance to practice it in a professional situation because we're not being given the chance to practice it by our managers or whoever. Yeah, this is a fair one. This is similar to the ensure learning happening per plan. Bring some sort of competition. So gamification. So gamification, personally, I quite like doing learning with gamification in it because I like to know that I've done everything. So if you've got the maximum number of points, you know there's not some activity that you've not done. So, and of course I like being top and I'm very competitive, so I like to win. So gamification does work on me, I think, but if you're not in the top X, it probably is a demotivator rather than a motivator. So it is important to be, to get it in the right area, I think. And yes, okay, budding up, mentoring, break up an activity, absolutely. To bring some sort of competition, yeah. So that was that for me. These are very good answers. Very good group. Thank you. Okay, now hopefully when I do this, it won't make everything appear. So verifying understanding. So this is why we assess. Check understanding, ensure competence. Are they ready in theory for the task or the role? Support decision making. So if they get 2 out of 100, you know that they need a bit more help. Identify gaps. Again, that kind of thing. Demonstrate return on investment, improve learning. So we've got that. Promote accountability. So this is the real reason a lot of companies, if you've ever worked for something like a bank, you do a massive amount of learning, which is just regulations. And they're mind-numbing. Encourage engagement, certify achievement, and align with strategy. So pretty much everything you said is there. Like 100, pretty much I think 90%. Very, very good. So final group. Slightly failing here. Here we go. So how are we assessing this? So this is the method of assessment. So are we doing quizzes? What kind of quizzes are we doing? That kind of thing is what we're looking for now in the how. Multiple choice, true and false. I like assignments. I'm going to put one in myself. Role-based, also really like role-based. I don't know if any of you use Articulate Rise and the role-based scenarios that you can build. I do like those. They are better. They're not like having a real conversation, obviously, and they're not as good as projects, but they are a more engaging way, certainly, of quizzing and of role-playing than not having them at all. Oh, that would be amazing. Branching scenario, brave people in storyline. Now, Carolyn, you don't really come from a learning background. Storyline is like Photoshop, but every layer has an action in it. So when you click on something, it moves or it does something.
Oh, that's great, because I like those. I like the idea of those sort of assessments where you choose an action and then there's a consequence. It's like going down one road or another. So storyline sort of does that, does it?
That is exactly what storyline does, and it's the most. Unless someone wants to correct me, it's the most used piece of software that there is in. So, and it's part of Articulate. So, Articulate Rise creates things called SCORMs, and SCORMs can be put into any LMS, and they retrieve the data behind the learning. And that's what when you click into learning and you go next, that's all in the SCORM. It's a kind of, I don't know how to describe it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Like a PowerPoint file, but much more complicated. And when the learning looks pretty, generally speaking, it's because it's been created in Rise. And then in that,
in what? Sorry,
Articulate Rise. So there's Articulate Suite. So instead of having Office, instructional designers have Articulate. There are alternatives, but they're not as well known. And any job you do requires you to pretty much have Articulate in your knowledge bank. Oh my God, we have no answers. Quizzes, teach back group presentation. Yeah, group presentation. Anyone who's a teacher will do presentations, I suspect, and they are a great way of checking learning and making the learners become the teachers. Active click through in software demo, right? Against rubrics, good. Prof discussion, group discussion. These are amazing. I think you've probably got more than I have. Branching scenario, storyline, presentations. Quite a lot of project work's coming up. Compare to, oh, too quick. Case studies are great. Case studies, very good idea. I think we've got some kind of random line going on here. Oh, look, several case studies. Okay, so I'm going to move on now because of the time that we have. I might finish early if I get this wrong. Okay, so that is the first bit I wanted to look at. Now I'm going to briefly go back to my PowerPoint, which is here. So now we're going to talk about a different kind of quiz writing, and this is using AI to write your quizzes. So oftentimes what I found is that stakeholders want me to create a quiz, or because it's quick, there's no cost, it doesn't take any time, it ticks the box, they don't have to put any extra funding in to pay for facilitators to go through the content, etc., etc. So oftentimes stakeholders, if the budget is ever an issue, they're going to ask you to create a true false multi-choice or a that kind of quiz where you're literally just quick clicking, choosing an answer, pressing send, and getting results. So the least kind of complicated. And we're going to look today at creating slightly better, two methods for creating slightly better assessments. So the first method is using Bloom's taxonomy. And I don't know if you all know what Bloom's taxonomy is, but in the Miro, I have done a picture of Bloom's taxonomy, which I did. If anyone hasn't used Napkin AI, can I recommend it for all kinds of graphics? You put in verbally what you want, press send. It's not really send, you press the kind of lightning, and it comes out with a graphic, and you choose which graphic you want, how you want it represented. Really quick, really easy to use. And anyway, so this is Bloom's taxonomy. Basically, remember is like the bottom level, but top. Understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So that's Bloom's taxonomy. And so that's what we're going to use in our first prompt. So if you click on the word prompt here, it will take you through to a page on Notion where you can copy and paste this incredibly long prompt. What you will need to do is copy the prompt into AI, so into ChatGPT or Claude or something else if you're using something else. I use ChatGPT. I have a paid account. If for any reason it doesn't work, you've still got access to all this and do it in your own time, kind of thing. And then what you will do is you will also add in a PDF or a document that you want the quiz assessments to be taken from, if that makes sense. So if I open my ChatGPT, I will show you what I mean in case that is not obvious. So I'm going to copy the prompt from here, which everyone should be able to do. Into your box, add some kind of document. So I am going to use skills gap analysis. This is what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the URL of this document, which is about skills gaps. And then I'm literally just going to press go. And depending on the speed, you'll get your thing. In the prompt, you will want to change the word topic and how many questions, although I didn't, and it's chosen 6 questions. So there you go. So I have asked it I've given it a list of instructions that are very precise and have been, so I try, as the way I work with AI is you do it, you create your prompt, you send it off, it comes back and you're thinking, that's not quite what I wanted. And you go back in, you change your prompt a little bit, you send it off, comes back, think, yes, that's a bit better. That bit's not quite right. Send it off. Like you keep making edits, keep making changes, little changes until you get what you want. How are we doing? Anyone stuck? You create an AI prompt catalog for our instructional design and encrypts it makes it much easier to replicate. Very good. Kelly, you're much ahead of most people, I think. So that is, I've got 6 questions. Are they reasonable? What is the definition of a skills gap? That doesn't look too bad. So I've asked it for multiple choice and multiple answers. So it's giving me 50%. It should be giving me at least 50% of multiple answer questions because they are harder than multiple choice. What AI tends to do if you don't give it very specific instructions is it gives you questions where it's obvious which is the right answer. So there's the distractors. The distractors are the wrong answers, for anyone who doesn't know. So the distractors are really easy, really obviously wrong. Or they're much longer or much shorter. So it becomes really obvious which one's right and which one's wrong. So that is what you want to watch out for. I've asked it to have all the options be plausible. The distractions are sufficiently plausible to require careful consideration by the quiz taker. So indicate the correct answer. So when you, as the quiz maker, are uploading this to your LMS, or to your SCORM file or wherever, you know which is the right answer, and you're not having to actually do the quiz yourself. And it gives you a correct answer and incorrect answer so that you can add feedback. Pretty much all quiz creation software, including Articulate and things like the H5P, also allows you to put in correct and incorrect. You want the incorrect feedback to not give the right answer, but to send them back to the right place to read or to learn where they need to find the right answer. And that's what you're looking at each time, is to get good feedback. Good feedback as in feedback that sends them to the right place and doesn't give them the answer or tells them they've got it right. Okay, so these questions are okay, basically. I don't know if anyone else has done this. Is anyone following along? How are you finding it? Anyone want to say how they're finding it or write? Or are you busy?
I don't know if anybody else has done it, Polly, but I haven't been able to. Would it be possible to put that link in the chat, please? Because it's only because my broadband is so pathetic, the bandwidth is so dreadful that I can't have Zero open at the same time.
Carolyn, for the prompt?
Yes, please.
It's in the chat.
It's in the chat, is it? Great.
It's the very last thing in the chat at the moment.
Yes, it's the last link there.
Thank you.
And hopefully all being well, it works. Okay, in case everyone's doing nothing.
We have a question from Kumar, Polly, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
What was the question?
Questions relevance to content needs to check. How much is reliable?
Okay, I found it to be pretty reliable, to be honest. I would, obviously this is AI and it does hallucinate. You can also add into the prompt, don't hallucinate. And I probably would recommend that. It's probably a very good thing to be adding into every prompt, is don't hallucinate. And if you say don't hallucinate, it generally doesn't. But obviously you should, like you've created the learning, you know roughly what it says. You look at these questions, they should align up pretty easily with what you're doing. And they, I've done a lot of checking because I thought the quiz questions we were creating were so awful because we were very short of time and the stakeholder didn't seem to care, etc. So this was to kind of correct the problems we were having, which were very poor and awful quizzes. Okay, so now if you're okay, Kumar, would you say you're ready to move on? Yeah, move on.
Yes, I think it showed a thumbs up. Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, so to move on to the kind of the next bit of what we're going to be doing is, so this is, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, which is back down here. So that was Bloom's taxonomy, basically, and we were looking at knowledge, comprehension, application, and possibly analysis, but not synthesis or evaluation. And now we're going to look at learning, the learning transfer. Let me hold on one sec. Learning transfer evaluation model. So this was created by a guy called Will Fallheimer, and he created it as an alternative to the Kirkpatrick model, which is another instructional design model. Instructional designers love models, don't know quite why, but they do. And the idea of this is really focusing on how learning transfers to real world. Okay, so rather than satisfaction, did you enjoy the quiz? Was it fun? Which isn't really very useful. It's about, can you do the job? So this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is a better series of, or better model for evaluation. It doesn't work with all evaluation because it requires real world, and we don't always have access to real world. So sometimes this is unattainable, but generally it should be. So shift from attendance, measure behavior change, designing effective assessments. That's kind of the hope always, the golden standard. So knowledge retention, skill application, and why it matters is because it goes beyond the surface level and it focuses on real world application. So there are, in this, there are 8 levels, okay? So the attendance, activity, and learner perceptions are not what we're interested in evaluating. So learner perceptions is about, like, did you enjoy it? Activity, did you do it? And attendance, you know, did you turn up? So that, or did you log in? So those the things we're looking at now is the ones in red. And this is a link to the prompt, which Samuel's going to put in the chat for this version. So again, you probably can see it anyway. It's this prompt here. So again, you copy it, put it into ChatGPT or Claude or whichever your preferred one is. So for me, it's very much ChatGPT. So I'm using the app here, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to put this in. I'm going to copy the same. I'm going to use the same link to the piece of knowledge that I want to assess the learning of. And let's have a look at this. I put that in completely in the middle of my prompt. And again, check. Okay. So in this feedback, or it's the same, very similar list of questions. Ooh. So it's going to be asking about LTM. It's not asking about blooms. Similar, very similar, but using a different resources. So it's got the LTM levels put into it. And when we use this, you'll get a different set of questions. Hugely different to what I put in, probably not. So it depends on the kind of material that you're using. So where it says tier 4 knowledge in my answer, or tier 5 or tier 6, those are for me as the learning designer. They are not for the learner. The learner doesn't care. So if I look at my questions, yeah, these are quite nice questions. Okay. I have read the thing about skills caps, so I am capable of answering the questions. I've read it quite a few times, and these questions I can answer. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, they are reasonable questions. Frankly, they are reasonable questions. The distractors are reasonable, and they are reasonably hard. I do know the material reasonably. You know, I've done quite a lot of work on it. I prepared this presentation using it, and I prepared my prompts using it. So, you know, I should know the material, and it looks like I have learned the material. Can I apply it? that is where we are going to go with the very last set of evaluations. So when you're done, oh good, I'm glad someone liked the prompts. Good. If the task of simulating the event in a training environment, what would be essential components to include to represent the event accurately? Oh, interesting question. Chloe, will you turn on yours?
Hey.
Hi. What do you mean exactly?
Oh, sorry. I thought it was just quite a funny quiz suggestion from ChatGPT asking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just like to sort of simulate with your colleagues a historical event seemed quite funny, but it's still a great question because it's obviously hitting those different learning levels. But it is,
isn't it? It's like you'd have to have a certain kind of colleague who was prepared to simulate a historical event.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it makes more sense in a.
And I hope it wasn't like
environment rather than school.
If it was the French Revolution, it might get messy. I think that was it was nice that it came up with something like that though. Okay, so if anyone wants to give me a clue when they're ready to move on, they've got their questions, they're satisfied, I will do the next bit. The next bit, okay, I'm not an expert, but I found it absolutely fascinating, and it's where AI is beyond, but it is part of what we're seeing in the market in different ways now is what I wanted to look at after this. And it's retail AI. And I lost everybody. If you want to, Samuel, if you want to put that in the chat and then people can log in while they're waiting.
Yes.
I logged in,
right now.
basically you get an hour of 3 minutes with this site. And I logged in just using my Google login, my Google Gmail. I don't know what you call it exactly.
Yes, I'm on it because I'm sending both links also for the last prompts together. And there you go.
So retail is, it's not pretty, but it is, I found it super interesting. And I found it really, for me, it was much more about recalling the learning in a way that no assessment has ever made me recall the learning. And there's a guy called Taylor Blake, and he is the person who created the original prompts for this that I've slightly adapted for our purpose today. And he's a super interesting guy, and they are using this. So these are voice bots or chat bots. And the way they're using it, amongst other things, is to set up sales training. So these are conversations you have with pretend clients, for example. They're recorded by the bot. The bot is talking to you, asking you questions, you're selling to it, you're doing whatever with it. And the conversations, there's a transcript of the conversation. And currently, the way they've been using it is they've been copying that transcript into ChatGPT and a rubric. And ChatGPT has been giving it a mark based on the rubric and saying, this is the improvements you could have made in this sales call. So, and then they're feeding that back to the salespeople. And it's been very, very, and I then talked to someone in a company who's actually doing that with their sales calls. But I found that it wasn't as good as what retail was producing. So there are companies out there who are putting this kind of training in place, but they are not they're just being launched on the market. But it's, I think this is something, and I made something for my husband. My husband is obsessed with architecture, and Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, he's French, had just finished being built, and I put in a prompt, and he had this very long conversation about Notre Dame Cathedral. I mean, like 45-minute conversation with a bot about Notre Dame. So, you know, you can really go for it. It's fantastic. Anyway, so if you're okay, we've got 15 minutes left. So it's going to be a bit of a show and tell, but you should give this a go. So basically, we're going to go to retail AI, which I hopefully have opened here. So you log in. So hopefully everyone's kind of on this page now. And from here, you're going to create an agent. And you're going for a multi-prompt agent. And to be frank, I don't know the difference. So what between a single prompt and a multi-prompt? But this is how I was told to do it. So this is the way I do it. And there I do a start from blank. Then you're going to copy your prompt again from the Notion page, which is the prompt, not that one. It's called this one, retail. I feel like that's not the most recent. That's me. Retail test prompt part nothing. Anyway, so if you copy in the prompt, but not the thing at the top. Now, my best advice for you, I did this using a book. And the book I chose to talk about was Time to Think by Nancy Klein. If anyone's not read it, it's amazing. And she has the audiobook, she has an amazing voice, super calming. Really recommend it. Anyway, so you copy this in. So I'm going to copy in my prompt into retail. And then the only other thing you need to do is where it says welcome message, you put AI initiates, AI begins with a dynamic begin message. Okay, so in any case anyone can't see it, it's here. I'm just going to increase that like that so you can see everything. Okay, not quite too big. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that. And so and then you do save. And then you should just be able to press test and it should work. If it doesn't work, say at the beginning, the book that you want to discuss or the film that you want to discuss. I put book and film because I know some people don't read. I mean, not that they can't read, but they just don't read. And so that's why I put in film, because I figured if they don't read, they might watch TV or films. And I don't watch films, so I read. I don't read, I listen to audiobooks, but that works. So put in, you know, either try the prompt as it is. If it doesn't work like you expect, then, and to test it, you just do test your agent, click test, and it will talk to you. And you don't want to have your sound on for this because it's quite noisy. But if anyone wants to give it a go, it is amazing. Or I can give it a go and you can watch. But you probably...
Definitely you giving it a go and us watching, Polly. Definitely. I vote.
Okay.
Does anybody else vote for them to do it? That's fine, but it's not going to be me at the moment, and I'm loving
You know what, turn the sound off if you don't want to hear me do this. Okay, so...
Hi there. Thanks for connecting. I'm excited to chat with you today. To get started, is there a book or film you'd like to discuss?
Can I discuss Time to Think by Nancy Klein?
Great choice. Time to Think by Nancy Klein is such an insightful book. What stood out to you the most from it?
When she says you have to make time for someone and not interrupt, not say anything, like spend 15 minutes in total silence just listening to them. That was very powerful.
Oh yes, that part is so powerful. The idea of giving someone uninterrupted time to think and speak really emphasizes the value of deep listening. Do you remember how Nancy Klein described the impact of creating that kind of space for someone? It was fascinating how she tied it to helping people think more clearly and creatively. What did you think about that?
I did think it was good. I even went and practiced with my stepson and my husband. I failed with my husband. But with my stepson, he talked in a way that he never talks.
That's amazing that you tried it out. It sounds like it really made a difference with your stepson. How wonderful to see him open up in a new way. It's not always easy to stay completely silent, especially with someone close like your husband. What do you think made it harder in that situation? Also, do you remember when the book talked about the thinking environment and how it's not just about listening, but also about creating a space where people feel safe and respected? What did you think of that concept?
Okay, so creating a space, I think, is vital, and I think it's something I'm not very good at, and particularly not with my husband. With my stepson, it was easier because for some reason I didn't have that overwhelming desire to interrupt. But I think the concept is very important.
It sounds like you're really reflecting on how to apply the concept, which is great. Creating that thinking environment can definitely be challenging.
Okay, so if you were using this in an evaluation scenario, you would have something like this. So you'd have a two-part. You'd have the first part where they're just chatting like I was chatting with it. To get people used to talking to a bot, okay, because it's weird talking to a computer. There's no one, I think we're probably more used to it because we do a lot of chatting online and we do a lot of chatting in a way that we didn't used to, I think. But it is still quite weird, to be fair. But it requires you to think on your feet, and that you have to know your stuff to talk about it without big pauses. So the first conversation you have with it, and I've had several, obviously, you are quite you pause quite a lot. And what I would say that I got in that conversation that I shouldn't have had, so my prompt needs adjusting, is it was asking me more than one question at a time. And you need to make sure when you adjust your prompts that it's asking one question at a time, because people can't remember more than one question. I mean, the advantages here is that we are seeing the transcript. So we're seeing what's said. But if we weren't, then it would be much harder for us to kind of remember everything that was said. Yes, Carolyn.
I really like this concept. I think this is fantastic, Polly, the way you're using it. I mean, I've had calls from Santa bots and all sorts of things. And yeah, they're intriguing and there's all that lag stuff. But I like this because, as you say, there's some rubbish out there actually, but this looks pretty good. And so how do you go from discussing a book like this to actually taking those questions, which you've given us the prompts for those, and I've created them today. They've been great for course that I'm creating on Copilot actually, so it's been practically useful today, so thank you very much. So now, just to top it off and finish my course entirely, could you just tell me please, how do I get that as part of the assessment into it, in the sense of, do I just give it those questions and say, look, these are the questions that are going to be discussed? Yeah, so I do it that way. Okay.
So there's a kind of two-part to this, because you need, then the way I would do it, I mean, if you're going to have thousands of people taking your course, you need more advice than I'm giving today and more knowledge than I have on this. But there are a system of things you can do here. I'm going to make this smaller again. So basically, there's a whole bunch of stuff here that you can edit. So, for example, for you, there's a thing called a knowledge base, and you would add the course into the knowledge base. Now, I haven't managed to make it work with URLs, but I think that's a me problem, not an it problem. And then what it produces at the end is a transcript. So if you go here, I don't know if that's going to work. It should do. Basically, it has a list of all the calls, and you take out the transcript. And in that Notion page at the bottom, I've put a rubric, and you would put the rubric into your case into Claude. Copilot. You put it into Copilot. And you'd put in the transcript, and you would say, using the rubric, mark the quality of this transcript.
Okay, got it.
And give justifications for your answers. So it gives, like, I give you 3 out of 3 for this and 1 out of 3 for this. Why am I giving you 3 out of 3 and why am I giving you 1 out of 3? So, and then you feed that back to the learner. So here.
That's pretty good. And I guess you could actually then, if you wanted to take it to another level, or that's probably well beyond what we've sat down to discuss here today, is you could actually say you could build in another level of this agent, couldn't you, somewhere along the line, so that it actually took the gaps and said, okay, let's do some work on the gaps, really.
Indeed. And here you've got your call history. There we go. So these are the transcripts. So you have your transcripts in here. I'm not exactly sure where. And there you go. So you just click on it and there is the transcript. So you would copy out the transcript here, paste it into your AI of choice, plus your rubric, which is in the prompts, and that would give you feedback.
Yeah.
So that is clearly more complicated than what we just looked at. But those are the two things, knowledge base in the agent, and then call history. And of course, this is the free version, so you've only got an hour.
Yeah, that's pretty good though, isn't it, really? And is there a charge for, what are the sort of charges? Are they similar to ChatGPT plus the cost of the phone call, or how does it work? Do you know?
To be honest, I'm not really sure. So I have used this I've run out of minutes, and they bill you at the end of the month for the minutes.
Right.
And the minutes are quite expensive. I think it's like $1 a minute.
Wow. Okay. Don't want to have to. You've got to get your husband off the call then, because he's costing you a lot of money.
Makes him happy. Someone's listening. And then, so I mean, this is me just using their free example. I have not talked to the company. I don't know, but presumably they have plans. Actually, I mean, I don't see where the plans are. But if you do add payments, maybe there's something here.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wondered. That's extra. It's fine. I'm sorry. It's been really, really helpful so far. I love it.
There are also API keys and webhooks and all that, so you could possibly set it up so it works in a different way, but then there would still be the billing. But I mean, there are other tools out there. I haven't tried them. I was so impressed with this, and I really enjoyed the way it made me think. Because no one.
Yeah, and I'm thinking you could also experiment if this was a bit rich for you. You could, cost wise, you could experiment with. I'm thinking of Notebook LLM, couldn't you? Of Gemini's Notebook.
I tried it in there, but it doesn't yet do this kind of you talking to it. It just does it talking to itself.
Problem, isn't it? Yeah.
But I think that this is a functionality that will be coming to everything. But I think it's nice to have a go at it.
Yeah,
now,
definitely.
See.
Yeah. Thank you.
I hope everyone found that helpful. We are time. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions if there are any.
Gosh, everyone's gone very quiet. Are they still here? Am I by myself? Is it just the 3 of us?
Holly, you will be producing a recording as well, I think, won't you? Because I lost some bandwidth here. So it'd be good if I could then go back and find some of the prompts, especially because I was finding it difficult to copy the prompts and put them into ChatGPT because of the bandwidth issue.
No problem at all. If you want to, so Samuel's going to do a recording and that will get sent out to everybody. I don't know if we can include the links in the email that sends out, maybe.
I'm not sure about that because I think it's automatic, the feedback form email as well. However, also actually to reply to Chris, sorry, Polly?
I can share if they want my PowerPoint, I'm happy to share that.
So the recording is gonna get online on the YouTube channel of LND Shakers. You can just put in YouTube LND Shakers. It's gonna be there, I think, in a couple of days tops. And for the slides, yes, Paul, if you want, you can also just drop them in the chat so that the participants have them. And then I'm gonna also make sure that on Slack I'm gonna also attach them to the post.
So all the prompts are here, if any. So on the link I just put in. So if anyone wants to copy that,
it won't copy. Yeah, I can't seem to copy it, and if I open it, it's struggling to open off a screen. But it doesn't matter, does it? Because maybe you could Maybe I can
I
ask you for them another way.
do
But
that for you anyway.
yeah,
I will-
fantastic to have the PowerPoint. I saw that just now, and it would be Polly. It's been really super useful. Thank you so much. I'm going to have to
My
run
pleasure.
because I've got a conversation with the chat bot in a minute. No, I haven't. No, I'm just joking. So I'll get off now, but thank you so much.
My pleasure, and I will share that with you now.
Oh, before I go. Okay,
So yeah,
thank you.
that's linked to the prompts.
Got it. Thank you very much. Bye.
My pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Gosh, some people made it to the end.
Yeah, I think in the meantime I'm gonna stop the recording, so then also this one gets finished.
All one question. I could not find all history in retail AI.
Sorry.
Probably, I think what I think what you showed, like the history with the transcripts, right, Kumar?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so that is, you go into call history on the side menu of retail.
Yeah, I'm not finding this tab call history after batch call. There is no option like that.
Do you have an arrow at the top? Do you have a side menu?
Yes.
If you click on that, it'll open up. So there's a sort of hamburger menu at the top. I don't know if that makes sense. The hamburger, so the 3 lines.
Yeah, yeah.
These 3 lines, when I click on that, basically it's the one that's like a clock with an arrow going backwards around it.
Yeah, yeah. But again, let me check. Yeah, now I find it.
And
Thanks.
then just click anywhere there.
Okay.
On any of those lines, and that will give you the transcript. I say any of those lines, you might only have one. And then copy it here. You've got the double page symbol at the top of the transcript.
Yes, yes.
And then copy there and paste it. And then the rubric is, I think it's the last prompt on the Notion page with all the prompts on it.
Yes.
And I'm not promising the rubric is great. You might need to work on it, but it is at least a start.
This is something amazing. Thanks,
cool.
Paul.
It's no worries. It's really cool. I was so like when this amazing guy told me, so Taylor Blake was talking to me about it, it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is possible. And I had a really, really great.
Every facet of AI is not shocking, but so surprising that what AI can do.
The limit is the human imagination, I suspect.
Yes, exactly.
Someone can imagine it. AI
it looks like AI with no end. It looks like universe like no end.
And can you imagine someone saying, okay, AI's banned, no more AI? I would be like, oh my God, I might have to use my brain. Oh no. And I use it all day, every day. Or like, I do something and I put it in and I'm like, is this good? What am I missing? What have I not done? What can I improve? Is it logical? Is it clear? And you could change this bit, you can do that bit, it's just fantastic. It's like having an office full of people devoted to you.
Yes, exactly.
I'm very enthusiastic about AI.
Thanks, Paul, for this lovely idea, I'll say. Thanks.
Brilliant. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad that some people have got something out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Yes, the comments are very positive. Valerie, maybe Polly, you can address this question because there was, I think you used a URL, right? So it's not a PDF, but it's a URL.
Oh, it's a URL. So this is nothing to do with me, but I can definitely give it to you. But I really liked this. So this is, I thought it was really well explained. And there's also when you go down it, there somewhere at the bottom is a link to their handout. Oh, here we go. So I've got this as well. I just did that. I don't know. Here we go. No, HTTPS. There we go. That will work. And this is the PDF that they do with similar content in. This is nice because it's got quite a lot of figures in it. And so nice if you were wanting to talk about the skills gap in a way that made you sound like you knew what you're talking about.
Great, Polly. And I think with this, then we can wrap up this session. I saw multiple comments like, oh, that was amazing. It's like revealing, I would say, also, and shocking in terms of like, yeah, what I maybe can do in a field where maybe still maybe many people need to discover and explore things. And well, thank you very much from my side, and actually also to you, Polly, and to everyone actually also joined. And
Yes.
I'm gonna stop the recording. And I wish you, for those who maybe are like me, an evening and a nice evening. And for